Everyone, welcome to Observability Guru. Today is an exciting day for us. We have Thomas Johnson, who we fondly call Tom. He's the co-founder and CTO of Multiplayer. So he's here to talk about observability in general, Observability 2.0, and also his multiplayer product, which is trying to make the developer experience much better and to make sure that Observability 2.0 is really in fingerprints of developers. So thanks again, Tom. Thanks for taking time. Do you mind giving us a quick background about yourself?
Sure, and thanks for having me. Yeah, so my background is in software development for 25 plus years. I started out in speech recognition and machine learning, and then segued into telecom software, where you have large distributed systems, millions of users, and that's where I sort of gained a love for distributed systems and running software in a SaaS model. This was in the early 90s as things were transitioning. The web was becoming a thing, the internet was becoming a thing, and I segued into that more internet applications from there. But since I've worked with large companies and small on distributed systems and all of the fun stuff that comes with that.
All right, okay. And I think before you started Multiplayer, you co-founded another company related in insurance domain as well.
Yep. And I've had my entrepreneurial endeavors. I love the 0 to 1 phase. Coming up with an idea or helping somebody with an idea and getting it launched and off the ground. I'm more of a small company getting larger person than a large company sort of engineer, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So Tom, like starting off, I think you co-founded this company Multiplayer, which is like a collaborative platform, which is making developers more ease when it comes to developing, troubleshooting things related to distributed software. So do you want to talk about what is Multiplayer, how it is different, and what is the value proposition you are bringing in?
Sure. Yeah. So Multiplayer is a company that builds tools for teams that work on distributed systems, and we're starting with two main problems. One is the documentation problem. It's currently very difficult to get an accurate understanding of a distributed system because you have to manually document it, whether it's system architecture diagram. You might have in, Visio or Miro or any one of the tools. You have to manually update that, keep it on track. It's never up to date. It's always out of date, and it's tough to do that work manually. Okay, so we're looking to solve that by having your system be the source of truth, as it always is. What's running is like the truth, and we use OpenTelemetry and analyze the logs, metrics, traces, and do things for the purposes of auto documentation. So we discover components, we discover dependencies, we discover APIs, we discover unique flows. So you think of sequence diagrams, like how authentication works or how this data flow works. We discover all of those things and track them over time. So that takes all of the manual work out of the system architecture documentation, platform documentation, and just automates it, which is really, it's a great thing. I don't know, I've wasted so much time trying to keep, as I'm sure everybody has, to keep that diagram up to date, and it's never. So this auto documentation is a big deal, because then the team has a source of truth about their system that they can count on. So when they're making changes or thinking about, if I change this, what is affected, they can answer that, and it's based on their system. So that's one big problem we've solved. another one is the debugging problem.
Okay.
One of, as you know, like, the life of the developer, it's not just about developing new things. A lot of times you have to fix bugs.
Yeah.
And the whole process of, reporting a bug, gathering the evidence, figuring out what's going wrong is broken. It's manual work. It's poor communication. So you imagine, QA, if they find a bug, or a customer. If you're lucky, QA finds it and they have steps to reproduce, maybe a screenshot. They maybe create a Jira ticket, and then it's up to the front end team, the back end team to reproduce those steps and to try to figure out what's going on. They might go into an APM tool to try to find evidence of the bug, but that's hard to do because traces and logs are just like, they're not correlated. You've got aggregate data. It's hard to find the information you need. So what we've done is we've created a platform debugger, and that allows you to basically call our API. We've got a widget that you can incorporate into your website where you click a button, it starts recording everything from the front end deep into the back end, and correlates all the multiple traces, logs, and metrics for what you're doing. So if you can simply reproduce the bug and then have it all collected, so you don't have to manually go into the APM tools to find evidence of the data or of the issue, and then you can share it. Instead of sending steps to reproduce to your front end or back end teams, it's a link with everything they need to diagnose the issue. And we're going deeper and deeper with platform debugging. We're going to make it easy for you to use your own IDE on a shared environment and run services in a debug mode while multiple people are using that same environment. That feature, which we call the platform debugger gateway, will be coming out in the first quarter. But yeah, so this shift toward tools for teams that work on distributed systems, and Observability 2.0 is very important to us, of giving better tooling to developers so that they can be better connected to the running systems, have better tooling for debugging, and remove a lot of the grunt work that we have. I mean, as a developer, I've wasted, I don't know how many days, weeks, months of my life trying to grep through log files to find evidence of bugs. It's just, I don't want anybody to have to do that again.
Yeah.
So those are two things that we've kind of solved today, and we've got bigger plans for the future as well.
Awesome. So one thing just clicked me is that so sometimes people think the observability is for production, right? Like it's your DevOps teams, SRE teams.
Yep.
So we have to give the full observability of the system. So the concept you are talking is like we have to give that same observability to the developers so that they can write better code, they can troubleshoot much faster. So and generally, I'm not too sure you agree, but a lot of APM tools have been used in production environment, not in developer environments as well. So there's silo, and that's a real challenge to developers when they want to troubleshoot things. So interesting.
Yeah, and I think the word you use, siloed, is I think an important one about that represents what it's like today. You've got your DevOps, and they've got this data, and then you've got developers, and they have separate tooling, and there's these silos. And we're looking to break the silo. The silo has to be broken because developers have to be connected to the running environment. But I think the Observability 1.0 tooling of just the telemetry, logs, metrics, data as sort of like just a big dump of data in an APM tool is not good enough for developers to be able to do their daily jobs. So that's why new tooling is necessary.
Absolutely. So Tom, because our channel is Observability Guru, and we kind of really focus on observability as well, I can't help it but ask you, So what is your meaning of observability? I saw that like in one of your posts you go into different aspects of observability. So if someone asks you, so for you, what is observability mean? What is kind of your answer?
I take a sort of 10,000 foot view for my definition. It's being able to see into a running system and be able to understand it easily, debug issues easily, change it easily, and that comes. Those are the general things I think of when I think of observability. Now, observability as a term has been adopted to mean other things, and usually it's logs, metrics, traces. Okay, and that's a very sort of simplistic. That's a more of a data focused view and definition, where I think ultimately where we need to go and where the term observability needs to go is more about like how is it solving the real day-to-day problems that teams have with their systems, and it's not just about DevOps and having nice dashboards or having aggregate data to say whether the system is healthy or not. It's it's looking at everybody and their role. I think that it's changing as teams have changed. No longer do you have like one architect who knows all the things, does all the things, and then a bunch of like coders who just code up what they're. Everybody's involved in system design and development, and that and everybody has some different responsibilities, but you have DevOps people, QA people, maybe developer specialists, front-end people, back-end people, even management coming in and being more involved in how a system works or is designed, and everybody is better connected because they have to be, because these systems are really driving the success or failure of businesses. All businesses are software companies now, I think, and their software helps to drive their success. I think more people are more knowledgeable about technology. That is a trend, so they can get into the details. You might not find a manager talking about like how to implement a message queue, whatever, but they might talk about the schemas. They might talk about other things. Everybody needs to communicate. Communication is key here, but observability needs to incorporate a lot of these things, I think, and a broader definition than just logs, metrics, traces, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm very interested to hear. So when you describe this multiplayer, you pick this. It's a Observability 2.0, right? I think Observability 2.0 is making some inroads. It's a buzzword. Everyone wants to see what is that. So at multiplayer, so what you are trying to do, right? So when you say Observability 2.0, what's the difference from 1.0 to 2.0?
Sure. And before I get there, I typically talk about multiplayer solving specific problems, because I think sometimes associating yourself with just a buzzword is kind of as hard, it sort of defeats like, okay, what does it really mean? People get caught up in that. So that's why I say auto documentation and platform debugging, because those are specific things that help. They are related to observability. Because it's built on some of the core data, the telemetry data that comes from Observability 1.0, which is, logs, metrics, traces. Being able to instrument your code to give some an external view of what's happening inside without having to stop the software to look in. So while it's running, to be able to look at it. That's very important. But I think the first era, or first version of the observability is this sort of foundational data. Logs, metrics, traces are important. But you can build on that. it doesn't stop there. That alone does not solve the day-to-day problem that developers have with helping them develop software without breaking things. That comes from like knowing your system, having a source of truth, an understanding of it that's kept up to date, not done manually, because if you're manually doing it, that means it's behind the times and it's probably got errors. So you know, for us, Observability 2.0 is having this, building on top of this telemetry data to have this auto-documented platform that represents reality, and having that allows development to go faster. You know, allows you to, you know, ask questions like, well, if I change this, what's going to be affected? You know, what's calling this? Does anything call this? Okay, okay. If this depends on this, well, let me make sure that if I change this, this isn't going to get broken. That kind of stuff is a daily challenge when you're just developing stuff. So Observability 2.0, I think, incorporates that. I also think that it will help with, you know, another daily challenge developers have, which is debugging. You know, how do I communicate a bug more effectively, and then fix it quickly without having to manually search for stuff? And frankly, you know, Observability 1.0 is just this big bucket of logs, metrics, traces. Nobody likes a big bill, so you end up sampling. Okay, and if you're sampling, you're removing perhaps evidence of the bug, just the thing you need to fix something quickly. So Observability 1.0 is great for sort of aggregating data, finding some trends. Is there general health or not for your system? But the 2.0 is more about solving daily problems for teammates as they change code and that they look to debug code. That's my take on the differences and where things are going in the future. You know.
That's great. And I think it's the right time because I kind of like trying to still associated that what multiplayer you guys are doing is trying to achieve that that concept, right? Like give more visibility of your systems to the developers, right? So we call sometimes the wisdom of production, but it's probably wisdom of your environment application, right? So do you want to take time just show us a few screens and like glimpse of multiplayer?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, sure.
So kind of like super excited to see as well.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I was super excited to see as well, and
Oh.
just to see how it can help everyone.
Great, thank you. Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay. All right. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll just show you a few things. So here's a quick look at multiplayer. You know, what you're looking at is a platform. You know, one of our customers, design partners, has graciously allowed us to, you know, use their platform for demos. You know, here we have auto-discovered. So with our feature called Radar, which is built on OpenTelemetry, we have auto-discovered all of the platforms, components, environments, APIs, flows, dependencies for this distributed system. You can see the web app. There are a bunch of internal microservices. We've got some dependencies on things like RabbitMQ, Redis, MongoDB, Elasticsearch, a bunch of other stuff. So, you know, we discover and track all of the things that are about your distributed system. Put it in a place that is like Figma. You can use it with the rest of your team. You can make modifications. You can we support what's called design branches. So if I'm you know, if I'm looking to make a change, I can create a new design branch and then communicate that to other people, send them a link, and they can see, kind of diffs and changes. So for here, here's an example of like for the AI assist feature, I'm going to add an AI assist microservice and a couple of dependencies. This is, an important step when you're developing a new feature to communicate the design intent. What is your plan? And a lot of people need to know about this. You might want to socialize this with your peers. You might need to tell DevOps what they might need to manage. Maybe get approval from your CTO or team leader. And it's great to have something like this and to have a design review before you start developing. A lot of times it's very loose design phase, and when you're at the pull request phase, that's when you find out, did I develop the right thing or not? Anyway, so first building on Radar, the discovery and tracking of logical platform architecture, dependencies, flows, everything down to the APIs. So it's based on the source of truth, which is your running system. That's step one. And here we've got an example of a debug session, which has, we've got this little widget that you can incorporate into your site. There are APIs backing this up, so you can have your own custom thing. But if you discover a bug, if it's QA, if you're a customer, you can just click a button, it starts recording, and then I can, do the steps to reproduce the bug. Here I'm just clicking around. I don't have a bug to reproduce, but and then click stop and send. And what we've done is, and here's the session, is we've created, we've pulled together all of the logs, metrics, traces, for that time period. Everything from, the screens all the way down to the stuff deep in the back end. So you don't have to manually go through your APM provider to search for like what happened. And if you think about like if you've ever had to deal with a customer reporting a bug, a lot of times you just have like, hey, there was an error message I saw yesterday. Like, when was it? Sometime in the afternoon. What was the error message? Oh, I don't know. And you're left with very little information.
Absolutely.
So this helps to solve that. So that's a little overview. We also pull together sketches and notebooks, and we're doing some really interesting things with AI. You think about how with all of this system information together in one place, think of it as you're building a knowledge base. That expert, there used to be, when your system's small enough, there's that one person who knows all the things. When it becomes more than maybe 10 components, 10 people, it's too hard to keep in one person's head anymore. But you'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to do things with AI where it has the knowledge, all the knowledge about your system. And we have some really interesting things coming down the line. We've got this platform designer, which we have in development. I think that the future of software development will be more composing platforms from pre-built components, SaaS products, things like that, and clicking to deploy to environment types, where that environment type code, that Terraform or Pulumi is in a repo that can be shared, so that if you want to assemble a platform for your new product, click to deploy on AWS Kubernetes for production, and maybe something lower cost for staging or development, you'll be able to do that without having to be a DevOps expert. Right now it's just so complex to get like a hello world thing. People end up cutting corners in the very beginning, pasting things together. And I saw this over and over in my career, where once you get that little bit of success, well, then you're swapping things out. Like while you're getting that success, you should be able to, get a nice scalable platform without being a DevOps expert, like up and running, And then when you start scaling, you get your DevOps person, and they've got the Terraform that you have, or the Pulumi, and they can just take it with them and extend it or do what they want. So that's the goal of our designer, a kind of open PaaS solution, and we're excited about that. That's coming out in first quarter of next year.
Okay, that's great. And now that there's a lot of buzz about this Gen AI apps, right? Like develop apps connected to large language models. So,
Yeah.
like, are you catering to that? Like, are you doing any changes to accommodate this new boom in the market?
Yeah. So my background is in machine learning.
Yeah.
Was doing neural networks in grad school and stuff. Love it. But there's a part of me that's like, I see a lot of companies just sort of like throwing the label on things or just trying to see what sticks. We're trying to find out, like, we start with like, what is a problem that needs to be solved, and then can AI be helpful? Remove some manual work, stuff like that. So, so we have a number of places where we're applying, AI features. One of them is with the debugger.
Okay.
So right now it's a big step to be able to take the manual work out of finding the logs, metrics, traces for a bug. So we've done that, but still that could be a large amount of data. We're providing. We've got a feature in development where we'll summarize the session. So you could click a button instead of having to read anything. Click a button and it will say, this happened, this happened, this happened, and here's where the error is. We think it's because of blah, and that gives you makes it faster, even faster, to go from reported issue to, oh, I need to fix it here. So we're applying AI features to that. I also think, so one of the other ways we're applying it is, right now, when you share APIs with people, maybe partner companies, or even if you're trying to, like, within teams in a company, or if you're just trying to understand your own APIs, nobody likes a Swagger link. It's just a big list of methods and endpoints, and you're like left with like, hey, figure this out. So it's a natural place to be able to chat with your system to say, how do I do this? Generate some code, call this method, and we have a notebook that we're extending to have this AI feature and code generation and be able to run the code. So you'll be able to have a conversation with your system and ask about, like, how do I do this? Generate some code, try it, get the result. Okay, now I want to do with this data, I want to do this. How do I do that? And where you have a conversation, a chat interface with your system and your APIs, and that will make it a lot easier for customers, partners, other teams to consume your system and its APIs more easily. And that we're pretty excited about that. We also have, with a designer, plans on being able to auto-generate platforms for common architectures and applications with a chat interface. So you can imagine, being able to say, hey, I want to build a consumer app that's able to, I'm selling these types of products with these types of features, where it will pull together a number of different components, start with a schema for you, let you iterate with just a chat interface, and also do a lot of code generation. I think that will be, I can't wait to have that fully developed, because, I think tools like, the code editing tools are really interesting, but their scope is really a single file, maybe a few functions. Maybe some other tools have, like, the files you have open as context, but to have the full system architecture, and to have knowledge about design patterns and other things, and be able to incorporate that and use Gen AI for that, I think will be pretty exciting. And a kind of game changer. So yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff. But I think what we're trying to do is, like, solve real problems.
Absolutely.
Take the grunt work out, the manual work out, and AI is great for that. Really great for that.
I love the part where you mentioned that have a conversation with the system. I think that must be something amazing, right? Someone can
Yes.
say, okay, okay, I'm doing this, but how should I do it aligned to that the structure or the standards, which has been defined. Or when I troubleshoot something, probably ask you where should I look at. So that's something amazing.
Yeah, we're
So
excited, and it starts with data. It starts with putting it in the same place, and that's part of what multiplayer is letting companies do. It's like get it all together. Right now, it's spread out. There's a Google Doc there. There's this
absolutely.
over there, and there's an old diagram over there, and you can't do much. So by putting it together, it's better for the team, better for communication, but also you can do this interesting stuff because it's
Yeah.
all data. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Tom, like now you kind of like been in this industry for ages, right? Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure like you used observability as a developer and probably in your
Yeah.
other experiences like troubleshooting and SRE or DevOps work. So where do you think this is heading? So what is the end game? Like example, if a customer comes in onboarded with multiplayer, they enable observability 2.0. So what is the end goal, right? So where you think that it's heading?
That's a great question. Um, so one of the other things we have in development, which I'm pretty excited about, is a component that will run in your cluster that gets your telemetry, but treats everything as a sort of debug session. Okay, and then chooses what to save and what to flag. Because most of the telemetry you have is successful sessions, right? Most of it's not like things go wrong unless you've got a really bad platform. It's like most of it is going okay, but we're filling up APM tools. There's a lot of cost to that with just successful data, aggregate data, and I think the future is, you know, one level higher correlated data, so stuff about the sessions, and maybe it's a time window, maybe it's not full sessions, but we're playing around with different ideas. But this intermediate short-term memory for sessions that are happening, and that where if something goes wrong, there's an exception, there's 404, there's something happens, you can have an intelligent rule that says, this needs to be flagged, saved for somebody to look at, and or even analyzed automatically with AI and best practices and things, and then that's saved. It removes all successful data is noise. Signal is when stuff goes wrong, and correlating it so that you can then look at it as a human and quickly understanding it, adding AI onto that to summarize and do a pre-screen of issues, I think is the future. Obviously there are other things with Observability 2.0. There's like documenting your system. There are other things as well, but I think that's one of the things I'm really excited about, which is taking a lot of the manual work out of doing the analysis, the searching for stuff, the trying to figure out better, like track when something is going wrong and have the full context there. Those kinds of things, that's kind of the future, I think. And then intelligent AI, which will become better and better and better, to do the analysis for you on ongoing basis, so that what ends up hitting your desk is really just the stuff that you really should look at, all wrapped up in a bow, So to the developer that needs to fix it, and maybe even beyond that, if you connect to code, it could be this is caused by this function, this line of code, and here's a suggested fix. It will, I think, come full circle like that. So it's a lot of exciting things and possibilities for the future, I think.
Amazing. It's nice listening. It's like a really awesome future I think we are heading. So I know like you are very super kind of excited about multiplayer, and you guys are working on some really cool features to launch in, right? Really cool, fast. So what is that one feature you are dying to release, like, try to get in front of your customers? Like, is there anything, a secret, something like, which you are really putting effort, you think, that is kind of like really, that's something like, keep you up at night?
So I wish it was just one. So a lot of these things, I've been wanting as a developer. I wanted as a developer for years. So I started this company with my co-founder, because I had these issues, like there needs to be tooling for this. So there are a number of things. So the platform designer I've always wanted. I don't, that's one thing I've talked a little bit about, but I don't know how many times, I'm sure a lot of developers listening here, I don't know how many times I've developed an authentication service. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not going to learn anything new. I want to drag that in. I might not want to use an Auth0 or an Okta. I might need something internally that maybe I don't want to pay for it. Maybe it's not the right model for me. But I want for the common things to be able to just compose a platform with open source components that are well bulletproof and battle tested. And then clicking to deploy in different environments where I believe that software is going to be composed at the high level, the logical level, like services talking to services, APIs, apps, and the infrastructure is going to get abstracted away. You're not going to think about, Kubernetes configuration or Terraform to get stuff up and running, or like how environment variables are shared or secrets. Or you might choose configuration options, but it shouldn't be so hard to get this stuff up and running and working. And it's going to get a lot easier. And you're not going to think about virtual machines anymore. You're not going to think about other stuff. That I think is the future. I'm really excited about that. I am also excited about the stuff we're doing with the debugger as well. We've got a lot of people using the debugger as is right now, saving them a lot of time. That's cool. We have this debugger gateway I mentioned that I'm super excited about. That I wish I could just announce now. We've got it in development. That is, when you think about you're developing in distributed systems, everybody has a hack, how you run stuff. You've got production, and then you've got maybe staging, and then you've got developers which run a little bit here, run a bit there, run a couple containers here, have to connect to shared resources because you're not going to run S3 locally or a SaaS provider. It's always a hack, and it's never representative of your production environment. So, and on top of that, it's really hard to use your IDE. Your IDE was built for debugging desktop applications ultimately, or local apps. You cannot remotely connect to a shared environment and set a breakpoint, because when you connect to a process, it stops everybody. So anything coming through to that process, whether it's my traffic or your traffic or whatever, is going to get stopped and it's going to hit my debugger. So that's not an option. So we've got this debugger gateway in development that will allow you, so you run a little component, think of it as proxy, or set of proxies in a kind of gateway. You'll be able to connect from your laptop to this gateway you run in your shared development environment. And this is built on OpenTelemetry too. So this is building on top of this platform debugger we've developed. And as requests come in, we're going to be able to know whether a request is. So let me start. I'll be able to connect and say I want to debug service A. Okay, I'm running service A locally. There might be several service A's running in the environment, but I'm Tom. I'm connecting, and I want my sessions to be and that includes service A to be routed to me, so I can set a breakpoint and I can step through the code. We'll be able to know that Tom is connected, share that with the proxies. Be able to look at the traffic coming in, know that your request gets routed regularly. Oh, this is a request from Tom and service A, route it this way. hits my breakpoint, I can step through, interact with the shared environment, shared system, just like any other component, and then, and debug my stuff, write a new component, debug an issue, set a breakpoint. Somebody else could be debugging some other part of the system. You can run multiple components. You can do things collaboratively. I might run my service. You might run your service. QA might drive and click debug session, and we're working together on a shared environment. And I'm really excited about that. That's a very geeky thing. I think that you have to know about the limits of your IDEs and the fact that you can't use your debugger on distributed systems easily, and understand the pain of a developer and not having a shared environment. So I'm super excited. I think that's going to change how people develop software. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like I know we are running out of time, so probably I'll try to wrap it up. I feel like a lot of good things are happening. It's based on your experience, like because you are a developer, you have gone through that pain, so you know what's important. And I think it's a lot of things are coming, right? Probably that's what the secret to success for you.
Yeah, and when I talk to young developers who are entrepreneurial and are thinking like, well, I might want to start a company someday, and I suggest, like, look at your pain points. If you've got pain points and there isn't a solution, and that's the best kind of thing to focus on, because there are there's real pain. You've got a solution. That there are others just like you, and those things together set the foundation for potentially a good company, a good project, or whether it turns into a company or whatever. But yeah, I encourage people to start with like the pain points, and especially if they're personally felt, that you have more chance of success, and it can be exciting to solve your own problems, really.
Sure. So Tom, the last question, and we'll wrap it up. So if a company, right, if a client just getting onboarded with you, and they want to, I mean, like, if you want to give them the number one or the single best practices, like, to stick to when they enable this Observability 2.0, based on your experience, what is that?
Well, I mean, it starts with, before you even get to 2.0, like, starts with observability. It's so important. Please, if you're developing software, mobile app, web app, backend software, like, make it observable. Like, start with the telemetry. Have something. Some people skip that. Many do, and you have a lot of legacy systems that need to be retrofitted. But start with observability in mind. Open telemetry. Please use open telemetry. It is the future. Rather than proprietary agents, I would say, bet on open telemetry, because a lot of other tools like ours built on top of that, as opposed to closed solutions. So I would say, if you're starting something, make it, put in, some logs, metrics, traces, do the auto, the easy way of just auto instrumentation. It's essentially a few lines of code. It gets a lot of the basics for common projects. Gets logs, metrics, traces, and then with that you can easily incorporate something like a tool like ours, where it's if you have OpenTelemetry, it's generate a token on our side, a couple lines of code, and you've got debugging, and you've got auto documentation, and and there will be other companies doing similar things, having other kinds of features for Observability 2.0, and it'll just be easier to take advantage of all this great stuff that's happening in observability.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I think those are kind of like really like good advices, someone to follow. So again, thank you very much. I know you are a very busy person, taking time, spending nearly more than 45 1 hour minutes going through the Observability 2.0 journey. and what's important, multiplayer. I think we talk about a lot of things. So thank you so much for your time. I'm hoping that like when your company start releasing the new go to the
Yeah,
product features, then probably we can have another session, and then we can see. And obviously, we would like to know why you are so excited for the future.
that'd be great. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.